I flew across the country for my dad's retirement party, but they didn't let me in because it was family only. I didn't make a scene. I just wrote this letter. 3 days later, I woke up to 53 missed calls. It's strange how the mind clings to hope, how it tries to patch holes in reality. You tell yourself that the man who helped raise you wouldn't forget you, that there must have been some mistake, a typo, an overlooked name on an invite list, maybe a last-minute email that never sent. You imagine a reasonable explanation for the unreasonable. Anything, absolutely anything, to avoid the truth you already feel pressing down on your chest. The flight landed at dawn. The city felt foreign now, too bright, too loud, too expensive. I was still foggy from the red-eye as I walked through the glossy marble lobby of the event hotel, clutching a gift bag and a trembling sort of optimism. I'd picked a soft blue dress, simple pearls, heels that clicked with a kind of nervous rhythm. Inside the bag was a bottle of aged scotch, Dad's favorite. Tucked alongside it was a card in an envelope I hadn't sealed yet. I'd slipped in a check too, though no one knew. Not Rob, not my therapist, not even me, really. Not until that moment when my hand hovered over the flap. I was prepared to feel like an outsider. I wasn't prepared to be denied entry altogether. The receptionist smiled at me the way flight attendants do when the plane's delayed. Polite but detached. The kind of practiced sympathy that means this won't end well. Name? Eva Carter, I said, smoothing the skirt of my dress. I'm here for the retirement celebration. Daniel Carter. She scanned the clipboard, her eyes darting down the list once, then again. Her brows knit. I don't see you on the list. I laughed softly, too lightly. Maybe it's under family. I'm his daughter. Her mouth opened, then shut. Right, of course. Just a moment. She tapped her headset, murmured something I couldn't make out, then turned back to me with that same careful pity. Someone will come speak to you. That was the first crack. But denial's a powerful drug. I stood there, still smiling, still hopeful, as people drifted past me. Cousins, neighbors, coworkers, strangers, all dressed in cocktail attire, all sliding effortlessly into a world that had apparently decided I didn't belong. A woman in sequins swept by with a balloon bouquet that read, Bon voyage. I clutched my scotch in my envelope like some misplaced guest at a party no one remembered inviting. Then a young hotel employee approached. Miss Carter? This way, please. Relief. Stupid, premature relief. I thought he was taking me inside. Instead, we turned down a service corridor. Sterile, quiet, and there they were. My father. My brother Rob. His wife. The one who never met a boundary she couldn't Instagram. Dad's arms were crossed. Rob's expression was smug. That familiar half-smile he wore whenever he thought he'd won something. His wife stared at her phone, pretending to scroll, pretending she wasn't witnessing a public execution. I laughed. Because what else can you do when your own family looks at you like you're the problem? Oh, hi, I said. Is this the VIP entrance, or did I miss the trap door for unwanted daughters? Dad didn't laugh. Not even close. Eva, this is a private event, he said quietly. It's for family. I blinked. You do remember I'm your daughter, right? Unless there's been a major plot twist I wasn't CC'd on. Rob sighed, already bored. Don't make a scene, Eva. My fingers tightened around the gift bag. The envelope peeked out, neat and naive. You invited the Hendersons, I said, voice steady. They once tried to sue us over a tree root. Dad's jaw flexed. It's about chosen family. There it was. The sentence that could fuel 10 years of therapy and still leave scars. I flew across the country, I said slowly, still waiting for the twist. For someone to stop this. For my father to soften. For Rob to at least pretend to care. No one did. You made your choices, Dad said. We wanted tonight to be peaceful. Peaceful, Rob echoed, like it was a family motto. As in Eva free. His wife offered a sympathetic half-smile, the kind you give a stranger who's about to cry in public. And that was it. No apology, no explanation. Just the soft click of a door closing behind me in every way that mattered. I stood there in shoes that suddenly felt a size too small, then turned and walked away. No drama, no raised voice, just the quiet sound of heels against marble and dignity holding on by a thread, past the lobby, past the bar where champagne glasses shimmered like promises meant for other people, past the cardboard cutout of my father grinning with a fishing rod beside a banner that read, "The Adventure Begins." I kept walking until I found a tiny cafe a few blocks away, half empty, half asleep. I sat in the corner booth, the gift bag beside me, and stared at the check inside the envelope. It was enough to cover a luxury cruise, enough to say, "Despite everything, I still care," but I didn't seal the envelope and I never would. I uncapped a pen and wrote one word across the check in bold black letters: void. Then I flipped a napkin over and started to write. No plan, no outline. Just the raw kind of honesty that spills out when you finally stop pretending you're okay. It didn't matter what I wrote, only that I was writing. For once, I wasn't begging to belong or auditioning for affection. I was just telling the truth. I wasn't family, remember? Just the girl left standing outside the ballroom, holding the door open for everyone else's happiness. But I wasn't crying. Not anymore. I was writing. And for the first time in a very long time, I knew exactly how this story would end. There's a moment after betrayal when your body understands before your heart does. For me, it came the instant my pen crossed that check. My hands were steady, eerily steady, while my stomach plummeted like a falling elevator. That single word, void, felt heavier than anything I'd ever written. It wasn't just ink, it was a spell, a confession, a severed tether between a daughter and the father who kept her on a leash made of guilt. Because truthfully, I hadn't just voided a check. I'd voided a relationship, and that's the part no one tells you about letting go. It doesn't feel like freedom at first. It feels like standing in the wreckage of what you used to call love, realizing it was mostly obligation dressed up in nostalgia. My father was never the warm, steady figure people assumed. He was a man who treated love like a vending machine. You feed it effort, loyalty, money, and if you're lucky, you might get something sweet in return. But hesitate, question, or fall short, and the machine spits you out, calls you ungrateful, and tells everyone you broke it. He called me his little star when I made him proud, spelling B's, piano recitals, perfect attendance. But the moment I stumbled, when I got sick in 9th grade and missed 2 weeks of school, suddenly I was dramatic, attention-seeking. "She just likes the hospital food," he joked. I had a 103-degree fever, and still, I wanted his attention. Still, I wanted to earn it. Meanwhile, Rob could crash a car and be called young. I got 1 parking ticket, and Dad lectured me for a week about financial responsibility, then turned around and borrowed money from me the following month. I spent years trying to win what should have been freely given. Rent payments, medical bills, small favors that somehow cost thousands. I helped because I thought helping was how love stayed alive. Turns out, I was just keeping his debts comfortable. By the time I realized how much I'd given, nearly 9 months' worth of his rent, a dental procedure, a car loan for Rob, even the deductible when Dad wrecked his boat, it was already too late. I wasn't the daughter. I was the bailout plan. And still, when he called 2 months ago saying he wanted to retire early, I laughed. I thought it was sweet. 60's a big milestone, after all. He said he wanted to see the world before the knees give out. I laughed because that's what I do when I feel cornered. And then he hit me with it. He wanted to take his wife on a cruise, a long one, multi-country, the trip of a lifetime. And he wanted my help financially. "You're still young," he said. "You've got years to earn it back. I just want this one thing before I go." Before he goes, like he was dying, like this was his make-a-wish. I hesitated. I told him I'd think about it. And the next day, I got a text that said, "You've made it clear where you stand. Good to know. Classic vending machine. Didn't get the snack, must be broken." We didn't talk after that for weeks. Not even when I RSVP'd to the party. Well, I tried to RSVP. Never got a response. I told myself it was just Dad being distracted, that maybe he was mad. But he wouldn't actually cut me out. Which is why when I bought the ticket, packed my bag, and flew across the country, I slipped that check into the envelope anyway, because I was still that kid trying to buy her way into a hug. But that hallway scene, that moment, when he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "This is family only," it finally broke something in me. Not like a plate shattering, more like a slow, quiet crack that had been there for years, finally splitting all the way through. So yeah, I voided the check, but not out of revenge, out of relief. Because for the first time in my life, I saw it clearly. I wasn't walking away from love. I was walking away from a performance, one I'd been cast in without my consent, and I was done auditioning. There's something weirdly satisfying about writing a letter with no intention of sending it. Except this time, I was absolutely sending it. I wrote it in a cafe that smelled like burnt espresso and regret, scribbling onto hotel stationery I had yanked out of my purse, the kind they give you in the welcome folder with your room key like, "Here's a robe and a pen. Pretend your life is together." The pen was running out of ink halfway through the second paragraph. I considered taking it as a sign. Then I reminded myself that signs are for people who still think life is fair. I crossed out a line, rewrote it with more venom, then looked down at the check again. I hadn't written void just once. I'd written it 3 times, all caps, bold strokes, one of them slightly diagonal like a scar. Then I started on the envelope. Dad's home address, the one I used to live in, the one with the peeling shutters and that rusted lawn flamingo that he swears is vintage. I sealed it up fully, like a ritual, and then I walked, calm, composed, and empty, to the nearest mailbox and dropped it in. The moment the envelope disappeared, I felt a strange kind of peace, the kind you get right after a tornado passes, when everything's still ruined, but at least the screaming stopped. The next day, he got a voicemail from Dad. "Eva, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I got your letter. Can we talk?" Misunderstanding? That word again? The Swiss Army knife of manipulators. I didn't respond. 2 hours later, another voicemail. No apology, just a sudden warm tone like nothing happened. "You know I love you, right? This trip, it was just a dream, but it's not worth losing you over," which is rich, considering he'd already uninvited me from his life, like I was an old coworker who once stole his lunch. By the third message, the crack started showing. "I don't know why you'd embarrass me like that. Everyone saw it, Eva." But there it was. Not what he did, just that other people saw it. Apparently, my crime wasn't being hurt. It was being hurt publicly. I still didn't answer. Not out of pettiness. I just didn't trust my voice not to shake. But I didn't have to wonder how he was taking it because my phone lit up again 2 days later. Not from him this time. It was, "Rob, congrats, you blew up Dad's party. You happy now?" No greeting. No question about how I was doing. Just Rob being Rob, the patron saint of selective memory. I didn't reply because what do you even say to someone who watched you be humiliated and still thinks you're the problem? But the real fallout came on the third day. 53 missed calls. Some from my dad. A few from unknown numbers. One from my Aunt Carol, who I haven't spoken to since she told me my tone was the reason people didn't visit me. He found out what happened from a text from a cousin I barely knew. He sent a blurry photo of my dad holding the envelope, standing in front of a Halaton cake-shaped like a cruise ship. According to him, Dad opened the letter during the thank you speeches. He thought it was a sentimental surprise. The room had gone quiet as he read it. At first, they thought he was getting emotional. Then he turned the check around void in 3 angry strokes. People were stunned. His new wife, the Instagram perfect one Horford to me as his complicated daughter, got up and left the table. Apparently, she thought the cruise was happening next month. Guess she should have married a different bank account. That night, Dad texted again. "Please call me. We need to fix this." Fix what? My childhood. I finally listened to one of the voicemails just to see if anything had changed. Spoiler, it hadn't. He sounded desperate, but not for me. "For damage control. You've made your point. I just don't think it was fair to make it there. People are talking, Ava. People are talking." And there it was again. His favorite concern, appearances. Never mind that he'd systematically pushed me to the edge of his life, like I was a guest who overstayed her welcome. Never mind that he'd built a fantasy retirement plan partially funded by my bank account. Never mind that I had helped pay his bills in silence for years while Rob got praised for remembering birthdays. But I was the problem because I had dared to speak. Well, right. The next few days were wild. I found out from a mutual friend, Reed, someone who used to babysit Rob's kids and now sends me thinking of you memes when drama explodes, that Dad's wife had packed up her things and moved out. Apparently, she'd already posted a vague Instagram story with the caption, "Sometimes the vacation you need is away from the people who hold you back." Subtle. I'm not saying she was a gold digger. But if the gold did disappear, she wasn't sticking around for the mining. Then came the real kicker. Dad canceled the cruise. No dramatic announcement, no apology, just a quiet cancellation and a frantic attempt to apply for a new job. Because as it turns out, when you burn bridges with the one person secretly, holding your financial scaffolding together, things collapsed fast. I didn't even have to lift a finger. Just stone pen, one napkin, one envelope, and suddenly the man who told me I wasn't family was dealing with the consequences of not having one. The irony, I would have given him the check. I wanted to. Even after everything, even after the guilt trips and the exclusion and the you made your choice garbage, some part of me still wanted to believe there was love under all the manipulation. But there wasn't. There was just need, expectation, control dressed up as affection. And now there's silence, which oddly enough feels like the first honest thing we've shared in years. You know that moment in a horror movie where the monster is finally gone, but the protagonist still checks under the bed just to make sure? That was me staring at my phone. I didn't answer any of the 53 calls. I didn't need to. The voicemails were more than enough. Dad sounded like a man who'd realized his parachute wasn't packed, and the ground was coming up fast. First message. Gentle, charming. Eva, sweetheart, can we talk? I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. You know I love you. Second message, slightly cracked around the edges. You didn't have to do it like that. That was cruel. People are asking questions. Third message, you've made your point. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. Congratulations. There was the real problem. I'd shattered his illusion, his perfectly curated fantasy, where I was still in the wings waiting to play the beautiful daughter. Fourth message, full desperation. I know I've made mistakes, but don't do this. We need to talk before this gets out of hand. Before what gets out of hand? I wasn't sure until I got a text from Rob. Did you seriously tell Aunt Linda that Dad used your money for the house? What is wrong with you? So, we were entering the unraveling stage of the crisis. I hadn't said a word to Aunt Linda or anyone else for that matter. But apparently once the envelope incident went public, people started doing themeth. Like how Dad had managed to keep his mortgage afloat despite retiring with little savings. Or how Rob's new car mysteriously appeared after Dad's insurance fell through. Turns out, when you remove the silent financial engine behind a man's carefully constructed life, the engineless shell makes a lot of noise as it crashes. I didn't respond to Rob because I was busy doing something else. Something I hadn't done in over a decade. I rested for real. I slept through the night without anxiety dreams. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes, waiting for a guilt missile. I even went to brunch like a normal person with bottomless mimosas and zero sense of dread. But peace never lasts long when a manipulator is spurling. A week later, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. Eva, this is Carolyn, your dad's HR rep. Hell listed you as an emergency contact. He's trying to apply for a contract position and needs your tax documents for some reason. I stared at the text like it had personally insulted my IQ. He had listed me as an emergency contact, the same man who told me I wasn't family. It was almost impressive. The man was out here trying to file for jobs using my information while simultaneously pretending I didn't exist at public functions. I replied with one word, no. 5 minutes later, a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer. Then came a string of texts from Dad. I just need your help for a little while. This isn't permanent. Don't be cold, Eva. I'm your father. The classic hits. And then, because manipulators never quit, had tried a new tactic. He emailed me. A full essay titled, Let's Tree Again. I skimmed it. It was part apology, part soba story, part fundraising campaign. He admitted he should have handled the party differently, that he was hurt by how it pulled away after all he'd done for me. He said retirement hadn't gone as planned. No kidding. And that he was now looking at downsizing. Maybe a small apartment near Rob. Poor Rob. Can't wait for that bundle of joy. He ended the email with this gem. I know you're upset, but I believe we can rebuild this family. I believe in second chances. Second chances. Funny. I'd given him about 50. He just didn't notice because they were quiet, unpaid, and conveniently off the books. That same day, I got a message from his ex-wife. Short, brutal. Hope the check was worth it. He was never going to take me anywhere. Guess she found out that retiring to travel was just code for hope. My daughter bails me out again. She left him a week after the envelope incident, packed her bags, moved in with a cousin, and changed her last name back within the month. I only know this because a friend of hers followed me on Instagram and sent me a very satisfying photo. Him at a rental agency filling out forms alone. I didn't respond to her either because the truth is I didn't need to. I had already said everything in the letter, not just the literal words, but the act itself, the message that I wasn't coming back, that I was done pouring myself into a well that never held water. And slowly the call stopped. The text slowed down. The family drama moved on without me. For once, Rob unfollowed me on social media. Dad went back to work part-time as a consultant, then full-time when the money ran out. No more retirement, no cruise, no tropical Instagram posts with cute captions like living our best life. Instead, silence and peace. I thought I'd feel guilty. I really did. But instead, I felt free. Like I'd finally closed the book on a story that never had a proper ending. One I kept rereading, hoping the characters would suddenly change. The dialogue would improve, the plot would make sense. But sometimes the only satisfying ending is walking away from the book entirely. Now I'm building something different. My own life, my own peace. No more surprise emergencies. No more guilt-laced favors. No more family-only events where I'm the ghost in the corner holding a gift no one wants. Just me. And that, my friend, is more than enough. Final scene. I sat on my balcony sipping coffee, watching Thesky turn orange over the skyline. My phone buzzed once. Just once. Dad's name. One last try. I let it ring. Then I did the most satisfying thing I've done in years. I deleted his contact, blocked the number, and leaned back in my chair, smiling into the wind like someone who had finally stopped knocking on a locked door. So was he wrong? Was I cruel for sending that letter? For voiding the check? For refusing to play the beautiful daughter one last time? Or was that the only way to finally break free from a lifetime of emotional debt? I'm not saying I handled it perfectly, but I did what I had to do to protect my sanity. What would you have done? Would you have sent the check anyway, confronted him in the ballroom, walked away in silence? Let me know in the comments. I really want to hear your take on it. And if you want more stories with twists, drama, and quiet revenge, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.